Pete Holmes, and welcome to the Conan After Hours stand-up series presented by Pepsi Next, where we showcase some of the show's favorite comedians. Tonight's performer is a host of the Professor Blastoff podcast. Please welcome our good friend, TIG Notaro, everybody!
I live here in Los Angeles, and I went to this party with this friend of mine, Pam. And when we were leaving the party, she said to me, "Do you know who that was standing by the door?" I said, "No." She said, "That was Taylor Dayne." I was like, oh my gosh. I love Taylor Dayne. Do you know who Taylor Dayne is? She was a pop singer in the late 80s, early 90s. She sang "Love Will Lead You Back." She sang "Tell It to My Heart." Do you want me to sing it for you? I am singing it. Does that sound familiar at all? Anyway, I love Taylor Dayne. And not ironically, I love her. So I went back into the party, and I went up to her, and I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but I just have to tell you, I love your voice." And she just turned and said, "Yeah, I don't do that anymore." Felt horrible. I looked over, and this other friend of mine was doubled over laughing at me. She said, "Yeah, you just got dissed by Taylor Dayne." Felt horrible. So I left the party. Then 9 months passed. And I happened to be out to eat with that same friend of mine, Pam. There was a party of 10 seated right behind us. You guys are not going to believe who was sitting there. Any guesses? Just think about the story I've been telling. Yeah, it was Taylor Dayne. That's exactly who it was. My friend Pam was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to say something to her." I said, "No question." And I couldn't figure out what I could say to her. Then I realized the best thing that I could say to Taylor Dayne would be the exact same sentence that I said to her the first time. So I turned around and I interrupted her entire dinner. I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but I just have to tell you, I love your voice." And she said, "My speaking voice?" And I said, "Yes." Oh my gosh. I'm completely blanking on what happens next in this story that I've told a few times. So Taylor Dayne says, wait, guys, I'm blanking. This is hilarious. You guys are thinking this is a joke, but it's not. You're like, wow, you've already built an awkward situation. So certainly this is part of the bit. It's not. This is me taping something and realizing I'm forgetting my story. Then you guys are like, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. Then the people from Conan are watching this on monitors going, this is really horrifying. We've paid you and we had a limo take you here to forget your story. I was out to eat with that same friend of mine, Pam. What's funny is this really happened to me. I'm not making this up. They told me, go as long as you need to tell this story. This is way longer than they were expecting. Yeah, this is awkward, I know. I don't know what to do. Woo was right. So I turned around and I interrupted her entire dinner. I said, excuse me. Sorry to bother you. But I just have to tell you, I love your voice. And she said, my speaking voice? And I said, yes. And what I didn't realize at the time was that Taylor Dayne was no longer pursuing a singing career. She was pursuing an acting career, which I guess is why she was no longer accepting compliments on her singing voice. There's more. Then like a year passed. And I was at my writing partner, Kyle's house. My phone rang, and it was Sarah Silverman. And at the time, Sarah was dating Jimmy Kimmel. And Sarah called and said, guess who's promoting a new CD on Jimmy's show tomorrow night? You guys will not believe who it was. Yeah, it was Taylor Dayne. Sarah said, I want you to come down to Jimmy's show tomorrow night. And I want you to say those exact same words you said the other times. And I said, no question. But I didn't end up having to go to Jimmy's show the next night. Because that same day, hear me out. That same day that Sarah called me at Kyle's house, Kyle and I took a lunch break. We ordered lunch to be picked up. We walked across the street to the strip mall where the restaurant was. Kyle was walking in front of me. I was walking behind him. We walked up to the restaurant. He opened the door. He looked at this table. Then he looked back at me. Then he looked back at the table. And I was like, yeah, of course she's here. Then Kyle and I walked over to the counter where our food was waiting for us. And Kyle was just pacing back and forth, about to have a stroke. And I was like, what is your problem? And he said, nothing, I'm just really uncomfortable right now. And I said, why? And he said, because I know it's about to happen. And I said, yeah. And I can't wait to do it. I said, this has nothing to do with you. I said, this is between me and Taylor Dayne. I said, but what I do need you to do, when I go over and interrupt her lunch, I want you to take my cell phone and just point it in the general vicinity and videotape me talking to Taylor Dayne, just so I finally have proof. And Kyle said, okay. So I walked up to Taylor Dayne's table. I said, excuse me. Sorry to bother you. But I just have to tell you, I love your voice. And she said, thank you. And I was like, that was weird. But the best part was when Kyle and I went back and looked at that video footage, you didn't hear me talking to Taylor Dayne. You just saw me go. And then over that video footage, you hear Kyle in an imaginary conversation going, oh, hey. Hey, man, what's going on? I'm having lunch at the Chicken Cafe. No, at the Pizza Cafe. At the California Chicken Kitchen Pizza Kitchen Cafe. So the person that Kyle made up in that conversation was the world's most difficult human being that will not let the easy stuff slide. The person on the other end of that call is going, whoa, 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 back up, dude. Where are you having lunch? At the Chicken What Cafe? Nah, man, I've never heard of that place. This conversation is going no further until you make it clear to me where exactly you're having lunch right now. It was all up to Kyle. He could have made up anybody he wanted in that conversation. Could have made up a nice friend. He actually didn't have to be saying anything at all. And I actually feel confident that I'm the reason that Taylor Dayne ended up putting out another record. Because you know she called her manager and was like, my fans miss me. They love me. I mean, sure, they're a bunch of he-she-looking robots. Excuse me. I'm sorry to bother you. But I just have to tell you. I love your voice. Excuse me. I'm sorry to bother you. But I just have to tell you. Excuse me. People are always like, there is no way that story's true. It's like, why would I make up a 14-minute story about a pop singer that nobody's really heard of? And just as a side note, I left out other times that I ran into Taylor Dayne. Anyway, my name's Tig. Thanks so much today.
Oh, thank you. TIg Notaro. You guys have been great. I've been Pete Holmes. Good night.